What is up, Op Warriors? It's your boy Edward B, and today we're going to talk about mindset tips. Mindset tips for maximal weight loss or maximum weight loss. I think this gets brushed under the rug a lot. And my recent video where I talked about Justine's journey, I felt, you know what, this is important because a lot of people talk so much about the science of the biology and the physiology of it. But let's talk about the science of the psychology and the actual brain activity, what can help you lose weight and stick to that weight loss process. I'm gonna go ahead and break it down in this video. Stay tuned. Alright guys, not going to bog you down with my jump rope, but if you want a jump rope with an aluminum handle, a swivel design, and an ergonomic design, you can't go wrong with the Fledge Fitness jump rope. It's only $16.50. You get all of that, and you only pay $16.50. You can click on the top right hand corner of this video or down in the description box below. And of course, as always guys, thank you so much for your support. Now let's go ahead and jump right into the video. Now there are two things that I want to kind of dive into in terms of the mindset, because there are scientific evidence or kind of scientific data in terms of how you can construct certain things so that you can keep doing it and not drop off. And I've applied these things, and don't take my word for it, that's anecdotal. What I'm going to be referencing is actual scientific evidence, but I have applied these things and I have been able to stick to my intermittent fasting protocol for almost 8 years, I believe. I think 8 or 9 years. I'm going on 9 years. And with me, for example, I do periods of bulking where I'm at a caloric surplus and periods of weight loss. So I'm not even scared to go into the bulking portion of it, where I know I'm going to gain some weight, some body fat, build a little bit more muscle, and then come back down to a leaner body weight. I do this systematically every single year, and it's because I actually apply these tools. But like I said, it's not about what I do, because like that's an anecdotal piece. You don't know all of the elements of what I do, but what I do apply comes directly from scientific literature. So what are we going to talk about? First thing that I want to talk about, and this is indirect kind of rebuttal or response to the Justine's journey video, is you cannot look at foods as good and bad. You automatically cannot do that. You have to stop doing that, because the way the mind works, the psychological reactions to certain things is sometimes very black and white, or all the way 100% or all the way 0%. And what do I mean by this? So for example, if you consider a food good or bad, and you actually eat a little bit of that bad food, you instantly feel that because this food is bad, you may have already kind of derailed yourself from what you were doing. So because it was bad, because I derailed myself, and when I went on the scale, it looked like I gained 3 pounds, you know what? Screw it. I'm just going to eat all this bad stuff. I don't even care about what I'm doing anymore, because I already messed up. So what's the point? You have to eliminate that thought of good and bad foods. No food is good and bad. Are there foods that have better nutritional value? Yes. But just because something only tastes good and doesn't really provide much in the form of nutrition other than its macronutrient count, it's still not a bad food in terms of gaining weight or losing weight. You can still eat some of that food, but understand that you have to control how much you're eating. But if you change your mind to say, okay, I just ate this thing 1 time or 2 times, I did not derail my 1 month progress from eating this, even if the scale went up a few pounds. The scale is going to go up a few pounds because of the multiple things that have nothing to do with body fat. Water weight, glycogen buildup, the differences in your weight in the morning versus the differences in your weight at night, the foods that are actually in your stomach that is creating some type of weight. But mainly water fluctuation is what drastically changes the weight on the scale. You can see 5-pound differences, 6, 7, 8-pound differences. When boxers, for example, gain all this weight from Friday to Saturday, where they were like 147 on Friday, but then on Saturday they're 165. That's not They didn't gain, they didn't gain all of that weight in fat. They didn't gain that in fat. What they did was they rehydrated. They fluctuated. The water fluctuation brought them up there. So you have to, one, understand that whatever you ate that's bad isn't technically a bad food in terms of weight loss and weight gain. And also, what you see on the scale after eating those things doesn't represent necessarily the calorie buildup from that thing or the fat gain from that thing. So hopefully you understand that, and you just start to look at food as just a caloric allowance for the day. So if you eat something that's 600 calories but isn't satiating, understand you're probably going to still be hungry because you ate that non-satiating 600 calorie thing, and it's cutting into your caloric allowance for the day. Now, let's go into the thing that I think is super important and the thing that I apply more than anything. Of course, I don't look at any foods as good and bad because that just, to me, that is a recipe for disaster. But this is the thing that I absolutely apply, and the studies for this is very, very fascinating. So I actually talked about this in detail. If you want to take a look at that video, you can. But I talked about this in detail around December of 2018. And what this system is called is action chunking. It's actually called action chunking, and it's a way that you can build a sustainable habit. Many people believe that to build a habit, you have to do a thing repeatedly. But they don't understand that the things you do before that thing and the things you do after that thing can be more important than doing that thing alone, because that gives you a daily routine habit, which is easier to stick to because you're not waiting around to try to do that habitual thing that you're trying to build over time. And because it's just this one-time thing that you do throughout the entire 24-hour day, it's easier to fall off of it because it's just such a small part of your day. You need to apply something called action chunking. Now, just so you can have a little bit of reference, I'll talk about one of the studies that looked into this habit sequence. What they did with this study is that they would have mice go into this kind of T-shaped map. It's just a T-shaped road map that they would go into. They'll open the gate, the mice will walk in and either make a left or a right. And they randomly either went left or right. It was like on a 50% split. A flip of a coin, they might go left, they might go right. There were signs saying go right, but whenever they went right, there's actually food there. They will be rewarded with food. And they would continuously do this, and they noticed that, hey, there's no point in going left. Let me just go straight beeline and make a right and go right to the food. And then they started to do audible sounds like go left. They started changing the signs on the floor, go left. The mice still went straight through beeline and made a right, no matter what kind of intervention they try to do to keep the mice from going to the right. But they never took the food away from the right side. They always left it there. What they did was they started looking into the brain waves of the mice, and they looked at two particular parts of the brain. They looked at the disolateral stratum cortex and the infolimbic cortex, both of which are tied heavily to repetition, habit, and memorization. And they noticed that these things fire not at the moment that they reach the actual food, but 3 different times before they even reach that food. During the time that the gate opens, it fires. When they're going through the path and they meet the fork in the road, it fires again. When they get to the gate and the gate opens, it fires again. And then, of course, once they get to the food, it fires again. So it wasn't simply the act of getting to the food, but the composite of the sequence of events to get them to get to the food. And that's what attributed to them having this consistent habit of being able to go there no matter what kind of roadblocks or what kind of different things that they saw happening around them. Now, this has been applied to multiple things when it comes to humans. What's an example of this kind of sequential system that you might be using to remember things? For example, phone numbers. I know a lot of people have cell phones and they just press the names, but if you type in a phone number, you don't remember the phone number as its frame. You remember the phone number as a sequential numeric order. And that's what gives you the ability to just remember it. And that is actually part of that firing of the brain to allow you to have that memorization and to have that consistency to be able to do those things. How you apply this action chunking and this sequential system to your life is by making sure you actually do things that are on a habit base before you even do whatever thing you're going to do for eating. So, for example, if you want to have a caloric deficit, and you want to eat at a certain time and eat certain foods, you wake up in the morning, you do your run. Once you finish doing your run, you come back home, take a shower, you sit down, watch some TV or do whatever you want, get on a computer. Once you're done with that for maybe an hour or two, then you go ahead and work out, lift weights or whatever. Then after you're done with that, then you eat your food that you're trying to set up, whatever it is. You eat your food. Then you do other things. Then maybe you eat again, whatever it is. But you have to have the whole day kind of mapped out. This strengthens every individual habit as a total overarching habit system. And this has been shown to help so many people stick to their protocols. And you got to make sure that you try not to break these systems on consecutive days. I know that there's going to be days of exception that you have to because of family get-togethers or things like that, but try not to make it consecutive. Try not to have these things happen on consecutive basis. If you can do that, then your brain can create an easier pattern for you to stick to the thing that you're doing. If you only work on the habit of the thing, of whatever it is, eating this specific food or doing intermittent fasting or just doing this caloric deficit, if you only stick to that thing, then it's going to be much easier for that to break down. But if you create an overarching system where you form different individual habits, all kind of interlocking and working together, each one of those habits, even if it's running, even if it's going to the gym, even if it's doing your diet thing, even if it's watching TV or getting on the computer, doing certain things like that, they're all going to work together. It's going to be interlaced and it's going to help, and your brain actually prefers that much better than just having a habit of one thing. So hopefully these things help you understand how to stick to something, because that's going to be the toughest part whenever it comes to weight loss. Like I said, many people can lose weight and that's easier to do. The problem isn't even weight loss. When it comes to America, for example, the problem is weight regain. Many people lose the weight but can't stick to that weight loss. They regain the weight. So you want to do something like action chunking, so that can give you the ability to stick to whatever protocol you're doing. Hopefully it wasn't too complicated and it helps you. Also remember, no good and bad food, just food and caloric allowance. That's all you have to think about in respects to a specific diet or anything like that. Obviously, there are other elements that you could apply that do things to help other things like targeting body fat, for example, with intermittent fasting. But in terms of just the diet and how you eat or whatever it is, just make sure that you focus on the caloric allowance that you have for the day, and don't beat yourself up because the scale goes up a few pounds, most likely not representative of fat, and because you ate something that you deem a bad food. Of course, as always, I want to thank my patrons for my Patreon. I'm going to go ahead and put their names right up here.